Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
One answer could be because not enough people are asking who the Pope would be in Star Wars. So I think that question really is the... We got a spit take there?
Yes. Hello there. This is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid.
And this is Laura. I'm a prequel trilogy kid. Welcome to What Does Star Wars Mean to You? The show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars to take the hate out of the debate and look at the franchise from a certain point of view, one fan at a time.
That's right, and today we have quite the fan. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, what am I talking about? Let me get into our guest intro. Tonight we have Eric Clayton. He's Deputy Director of Communications at the Jesuit Conference of Canada and the United States. He's a writer at the intersection of pop culture and spirituality. His book, Canonnball Moments, Telling Your Story, Deepening Your Faith, has won several awards. And he's a big Star Wars fan. Who wrote My Life with the Jedi, The Spirituality of Star Wars. And it takes the teachings and philosophy of St. Ignatian and present them in terms of Star Wars.
Yeah.
In general, on the show this year, we've talked a lot of politics of Star Wars.
Yes, we have.
But this time, we're going to take the other side of the coin. Would you call it the other side of the coin?
I would. Yeah.
And look at some of the philosophical and spiritual teachings of Star Wars, which is going to be neat.
And spirituality has never driven politics.
No, never. In fact, religion and politics don't mix at all. Now that I think about it.
What are you talking about? That's never in the history of humanity happened.
But I do want to mention, before we dive into this, want to mention there's a couple of times where we, between the three of us, we got some things wrong. One of them is we couldn't think of the book where Qui-Gon refuses to be on the Jedi Council, and that book is Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice, which now just leapt to the front of the line of my next reading. And then the other thing was Eric was talking about the new Jedi Order books. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned, these were the ones by Kevin J. Anderson. I had that mixed up with Kevin J. Anderson's The Jedi Academy trilogy.
Okay.
So, and I think in my head, I always think of the Jedi Academy trilogy as the new Jedi Order books, but they're not. They're two different things.
If you catch any other blunders, feel free to tweet at us or Instagram us. Get in on the conversation. Tell us what we got wrong.
Yeah, and you can do so at Star Wars Means to You. That's at Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. So,
should we go talk to Eric?
Yeah. Let me say it. I'm going to say it.
Oh, okay.
Luke, we're going to have company. I love saying that.
To breathe it in.
Yeah. I still, every once in a while will knock mine because mine is on, an arm and sits here. And I'll be writing something down and I hit it.
Yeah. I know.
That was an exciting story. Now, from Mike Wars to Star Wars.
Nice.
Eric, yeah, right? I'm great at the segue.
You do Eric,
it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our first question to everyone always is, are you ready to share with the world what does Star Wars mean to you?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited.
Excellent.
This is our favorite answer. It's usually the answer we get, but it's our favorite one.
What happens if a different answer appears? If someone's like,
a
lot of editing.
We reschedule. We're like, look, wait till time when you're ready to share with the world, and then we'll do this.
That's fine. It goes in the bloopers. Yeah,
it goes in the
You get back to them. Hey, you work on yourself and then come on back.
Yeah.
I'll kick off our 5 with the Force. So which Star Wars movie is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, guilty pleasure. Rogue One, but also my favorite. So
Wow, I don't think anyone's ever said that.
Yeah.
Really? All right, I might say, you know what? Can I say Solo? I really like Solo, but I think Rogue, because that wasn't the same one. So I'm going to go with Solo's my guilty pleasure.
Okay.
Stop.
That's a really fun, a fun guilty pleasure one. Okay. Do you have a D6, Dave, or do I
do not have a D6, but maybe just pick a number between 1 and 6.
Ooh.
4.
Okay. Who's your favorite droid?
The new one from Skeleton Crew. Was it Kate?
Oh, yes.
What's his name? SM3?
Yes, Smee. SM33, because it was
right, because it's Smee. Yeah, Mr. Smee. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of great droids, right? But I love, he was just so fun because I love the pirate vibe. So
fun.
Yeah.
So fun. That's such a good answer. Okay, do you have a favorite line to quote?
Yes, but it's not like I love the Vader says in Obi-Wan Kenobi in the finale, your strength has returned, but the weakness remains, right? When Obi-Wan is about to, he looks like he's about to be defeated, and then he kind of comes back, and then Vader, they go back and forth. And I just think that is so smart and so really like reflective of how we live our lives constantly. Like the weakness always remains. That's actually not a slight. It's actually the fact. Sorry, this is supposed to be fast. I shouldn't have.
No. You don't have to do rapid fire. We call it semi-rapid fire because just to get the Star Wars baseline. Tell us everything.
And the story I tell, because it's a true story, is that when I was watching the finale, my wife, who is a trauma therapist, walked through and heard that. And she's like, "Oh, that's a smart line," because again, that's just like how we live our lives. Like, we can be weak and strong at the same time. Like with those, we carry all this stuff simultaneously, and so it's about what we do as with that knowledge. And so I go back to that all the time. I mean, there are all the classic lines, of course, but that line kind of takes a residency in my head for free.
Wow.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a good line, too.
This is a great Star Wars baseline. Okay, besides the movies, what's your favorite Star Wars content? And it doesn't have to just be TV. It could be like the novels, comic books, games.
Yeah, I would say, I didn't even think of the cartoons. I didn't think of TV shows. I like the books. Not that I'm like I'm like pretty well read with the new post-Disney era of novels. Definitely adult novels, some of the young adult stuff. I read we're talking like the prequel trilogy. So I read the New Jedi Order from soup to nuts and loved that.
Yeah.
I would say books are probably my next favorite.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, I like TV shows. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to please. Honestly, I'm not like a tough.
If it's Star Wars, we're a fan.
And I'm like, that's a cool bookmark. Sure. Yeah.
I love that. Which Star Wars character would be a? Oh no.
No, go ahead. This was my first question that I thought of, and then I didn't go back, so I do want to hear the answer.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so nervous now. All right.
No, don't be nervous.
You freaked me out. I was like, should we not ask this? That's funny. Which Star Wars character do you think would make a good Pope?
Oh, nice. Good
great
Pope.
question.
Wow, great. That's a great question. Let's think. I would say Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh,
yeah.
Great answer.
Qui-Gon Jinn. Yeah, for all the reasons you think. Yeah, right. Because you have a guy who loved the Order.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This is my Catholic coming out, right? Who loved the institution, but also said there's room to grow, and we're missing the mark, and we're missing people. We're not among the people. I don't know if you guys read the Living Force, but that one by like that like the themes in that book I thought there it is. We're so good, and Qui-Gon was almost like a side character, but he was like the instigating factor, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that his whole way of like with the Order, but also pushing into new frontiers and also being very present with actual people in the galaxy. Mm-hmm. I think it's what you want in a Pope. Yeah. Plus he can levitate stuff,
Solid answer.
As soon as you said that answer, I was like, oh yeah, definitely Qui-Gon. And then as you were describing it, I was also thinking about the Living Force, because that's where I really learned how Qui-Gon was resisting the Order a little bit, or, not necessarily going against the Council, but had his own thoughts of where the Council should go.
It colored his character a lot more. It gave it more complexity and depth that I think was lacking from Phantom. Yeah.
Was it in that book, or where did we see? Have we seen yet? Again, I'm a little like dodgy in my timelines here, but like where Qui-Gon is invited into to be on the Council, but then rejects. Have we actually seen that in canon yet, or we just know it happens at some point?
I don't know. I haven't seen it happen. I don't know.
Isn't that a line?
But it feels like it could be in one of the stories from the early 2000s where there was a lot of Qui-Gon Jinn stories, or it could have been one of the modern comics.
I like that idea a lot too. That idea of like come into the inner circle, and then that like I imagine what's going on in his head, like where he's like, oh, yes. I could sit at the table, but also I need to be out in the in the world.
And he seems to want to live his or be a Jedi by example. I think is one of his goals. So let's start with what introduced you to Star Wars, and can you take us through that experience?
Yeah, so my dad, when I was, I don't know, probably like second, third-ish grade, just had the originals on VHS, and he popped them in the old VCR. He's like, I think you're going to like these. And we watched them over the course of, a couple weeks, and he was right, and I liked them a lot. And it was super fun, right? So I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Like I was the right age, just like, the right, like I was like, oh, like I can definitely like open grocery store doors with my hands. Like, it's all the stuff, right? But it was just so close to, we were talking about this at the beginning, so close to when the special editions released. And so suddenly you're like, oh man, like I just saw this. Now there's more. I love, like even as a child, like I love that like kind of Easter egg, like a little bit of new stuff, a little bit of new lore.
Yes.
And so I was all in on that. Obviously that was the trial run for the prequels. And so I, then was ready for the prequels. And I, and it was like, I think it was fourth grade or something like that. And so I remember just all my friends we're studying up, we're reading, we're debating like, could Senator Palpatine really be the Emperor? Like, I know it's the same actor, but that seems insane. Obviously, like, come on, you kids, you silly kids. And so that was just like that was the on ramp. And then, like I said, I read the New Jedi Order books. I don't quite remember. They must have come out around then because it was like, I don't know, middle school to high school kind of a time. And I think my Star Wars like fandom kind of died down a little bit, but then I think it was probably somewhere in college, like the Clone Wars comes out. Or I remember the first Clone Wars, like the very short animation.
Yes.
I forget who the animator.
I remember like Skovsky. I said that wrong, but
yeah, you got the right letters, I think. And they, but like yes. I remember like rushing home like from dinner and be like, I gotta watch that like the 3 minutes or whatever it was on Cartoon Network. Remember that? That was crazy. And yeah, so it was kind of like a slow burn in the background. And then, I don't know. I always liked Star Wars then. It was always like in part of my ethos and like favorite stories. And the Clone Wars, you kind of kept that burning. And and then like Disney just amped it up. And then, I've been on the ride ever since.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned opening the door, grocery store doors with your hand by using the Force, which is something I do. Do you still do it?
Occasionally, yeah. Or like from my pocket, like you're a real secret Jedi. Like, it's like, oh, like you can't see me. Yeah, sometimes, or like like you wanted something to stop. You're like, ugh. Yeah, for sure.
I do the thing where if I don't want to get up to get something, I'll look at my husband and I'll say, is the Force strong with me today? And if he goes and gets it, it is.
Oh, wow. That's so good. I would just lay there and just like hold my hand out, but you have like a really good system in place, it sounds like, to really make things work.
And every now and again he looks at me and he goes, no, it's not.
That's awesome.
Sorry.
Does he ever say like, does he ever ask if the Force is strong with him? Like he's like, it's not with you, but definitely with me. Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Sounds like the Force is strong between you. There's like a you have a good.
Yeah, no.
It's a dyad.
It serves me. No, I'm kidding.
It's a dyad. Nice. Keeping in the lore.
You were in that kind of, I consider like really the sweet spot of a Star Wars fan in that you got to experience the original trilogy before the prequels, but it was so close to the prequels that it must have felt like just one kind of, reveal.
Yeah.
Did you have any trouble with like for original trilogy kids like me were famously hate the prequel trilogy back when it came out? Did you have any troubles with the prequels when they came out after experiencing the special editions in theaters?
No, I don't. I am not today a terribly critical movie consumer. I have opinions, right? But I'm like, I don't know if someone worked hard on this. Like, I'm sure it's good. So like even more so as a child. And I don't think it ever crossed my mind like, oh, this could be bad. Like, I think I was like, oh, this is Star Wars. This is going to be fun and awesome. And also like, what do I want? Like, I want like lightsabers. I want like, the fights. Like I want some cool Force tricks. And I was like famously, I don't know, famously, like I just the fact is, I loved like the lore books. Like even then, And I think I still have one somewhere in this house, but like one of the original, like, here's all the backstory of like, all the the minutia. When we got to add more of that with the prequels, I was like, oh man, this is super cool. Like let's do more of that. So I was like, oh, midichlorians, I guess that's the thing. Like let's make sense of it. So yeah, I didn't have any trouble. I think the first time I actually did have trouble with Star Wars movie was Rise of Skywalker. That was the first one I was like, oh, I feel like we could have done a little better. Yeah. But even that, I was like, I don't know. And now I like all of the, because I don't know, I feel like seeing the sequel trilogy, I was like, oh, they're laying an infrastructure here for a bazillion more stories. And as they fill that in, I mean, I like it. I like all the clone stuff. I like all the, I thought, Shadow of the Sith was like a really great story. I think Adam Christopher's the author, right? So again, do you just have them all there, or just the ones I'm naming?
I literally have a bookshelf here of just the Star Wars books.
I gotta go like under my desk to get mine, but they're also there.
I will humble brag a little bit. We interviewed John Jackson Miller and Adam Christopher and a lot of different authors. So when the ones we've talked to books pop up, I'm like, yes, I know that one.
Yeah, I'm reading Lost Stars for the first time right now.
Oh, such a joy! It's such a joy.
Oh, it's awesome! It's so good, and I know, like, I feel so silly in some ways, because I know it was like one of the first ones in the new era. It was, I mean, Claudia Gray is like one of the best, right? And
epic.
And I was so pleased. I was at a conference where she was speaking, and so I was like, oh, this is a great excuse to buy her book and have her sign it. And that was the one I didn't have. And I was like, this is what nice. Luck. So
it's the one. It's the one. Yeah.
And it's like labeled as young adult, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like, not that it's mature or anything. It's just, it's complex and interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what because I'm literally like, that's on my nightstand right now. And I'm like probably 3/4 of the way through. I know what I'm struck by in that book is just how quickly she moves over key plot points of the original trilogy.
Yes.
It's like they reference, like, remember that Hoth thing? Like, that was crazy, right? And then they just keep on rolling. It's like 3 pages. Yeah. And I was like, this is a really cool way of doing the story. And obviously it's for fans. It's not like I would think you would never pick up that book if you didn't have already a good working knowledge of the Star Wars story. Yeah. So yeah, great book. Sorry, I know that wasn't the question, but just
I love this though, because it's leading into, we were curious how your fandom of Star Wars has shaped your perspective of storytelling and your creativity. So I feel like this is a really great segue into that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think in large part, I don't know if this is quite the answer, but one of the things I really do love about Star Wars, and I know this might be a hot take, but I like the assembly of pieces in some ways after the fact, when they make sense and when they don't contradict. And so like Lost Stars is a great example, right? And I don't know. I know that was written first. Like, I don't know how it winds up with Andor and all that jazz. But I just remember thinking when we watched Force Awakens and General Organa comes off the transport, right? And there's this like, exchange between her and Han, and C-3PO's got like a red leg or whatever he's got, right? And I'm like, I'm like, they're not going to explain any of this, and this is going to be told in other stories. I was like, I could be really irritated by that, or I could be really excited that we're just building this huge tapestry and we put pieces in, and the world is always expanding. And so I think, I don't know if that's quite the answer to the question, but that's I think what about Star Wars animates me is that the constant unfolding of new stuff. I have some quibbles with that too, but this is the positive side is I like that. So
yeah, I love the side plots. It's one of the reasons I love the Certain Point of View books, is because it's like you get one chapter that's like one person's existence in a single day, while we know what's happening maybe in Yavin or something crazy, the big pivotal moments, and then you just have like, one guy who's, mopping the floor of the bridge of the Death Star and like his story, and I just think it's great. Like
just that concept I think is great. And that concept I feel like is very Star Wars, because like what's Andor? Andor is like the prequel backstory to like the third leading guy of the prequel movie to the original one, right? And yet it's amazing and it unlocks so much. And so, I think it invites us to say, okay, well, who is standing in the background? Like, who are these people? These are fully fleshed characters. These aren't just props, and I think that's, again, to like Star Wars' originality, right? The stuff of the world mattered. It was very intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about in your book the Ewoks. and the Ewok films. And I just thought maybe we would ask you to talk about that a bit to our audience too, kind of like what we can learn from the Ewoks and like, you know, what that was for you as a kid, kind of like watching the Ewok adventures.
Oh man, they're great. They were wild. You guys have seen those, right? Have you?
Oh yeah. We did a whole episode on Caravan of Courage.
I mean, also in my book, right, I went to great lengths, and happily so, to really like dig deep into the Easter eggs of Star Wars. And so like, if you know, like I have a buddy who like, he's like, oh, Caravan of Courage, like you nailed it, man. And so like, it's like, this is just for you, my friend. Like, this is just for you. It was, I don't remember what years those came out, right? But they were on, I guess it must have been a VHS. When I was like 87. I want to say like 87.
I want to say 84 and 86, but it could have been 85 and 87.
Right now.
Okay, all right. Get the fact checkers. Yeah, I mean, it was like, I think I write in the book. Like,
84.
It was literally,
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. 84.
Wow. No,
okay.
You nailed it, Dave. All right. It was
I know
like
my Ewoks.
Star Wars, right? If I know one thing in this world. Yeah, it was a birthday party. It was like a sleepover birthday party. And I was like, guys, you'll never guess what I found at the Blockbuster. And and that was it. And we're like, this is a wild ride, this thing. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it other than when I found it on DVD at some point in my life, I was like, oh, we need to own this. I don't even know if I have a way to play it in my house anymore. But the story I read about in the book is that, I don't remember, that was Cindy something or other, I think was the actress's name.
Yes.
But looked just like my oldest daughter. Like with the, like to the point where she walks over and she holds the book up and or the thing, she's like, is this me? Was I in this film? And I was like, no, dude, like you're 3 and this is from 1984. But you do have surprisingly similar curly hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's like, I go back and forth, I think. Like there's a little bit of, I can't think of the word I want to use here, but it's just like, oh, like I'm going to tell a story about the Ewoks. Nobody wants this, but like, buckle up, here we go. And then, you know, so you can take that perspective, or you can take the more like charitable, joyful perspective and be like, cool, I'm happy. Let's go back to Endor and like screw around for a little bit. I think there were some plot lines in the Clone Wars that did the same thing. Sorry, Dave, what were you going to say?
Oh, no. What I really appreciated about the Ewoks, Caravan of Courage, when we rewatched it, was it felt like a National Geographic documentary at first. Like the first 40 minutes just feels like we're watching the day of a life of an Ewok. And how bizarre is it that they took the time and money to create that, and somewhat effectively now. Like, I think back in the day, people like you and your friends, you wanted Star Wars. You wanted lightsabers and spaceship battles and stuff. And they were like, no, that's not what we're going to give you. We're going to give you like this documentary about Ewoks and a strange one-eyed, was it a one-eyed creature? I think they fight at like a giant Cyclops
like
at the end of it. And weird magic. They didn't have the Force, but they had this weird magic about it, which also leads into. I'm sorry, I'm going off, but it also leads into.
It was very Willow-esque.
Very Willow-esque, and it goes into Witches of Dathomir.
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of a precursor to all the Star Wars strangeness that is to come within the TV shows.
And I think that's good, right? Because I think I certainly the witches, right? And what's that one kind of species that appeared in Skeleton Crew? Who like moves really fast. Like I like when the storytellers today go back and connect to these like old kind of crazy things. And I do like the strangeness of Star Wars. I mean, I think like in the modern day, right? Like the Bendu is kind of like a strange thing in Star Wars. I like when it doesn't. Like I love Andor, right? Andor would be the opposite of that in some ways, you know. So I mean, like I'm here for all of it, but yeah, that strangeness is really cool. And I don't know. I always think it's hilarious that Caravan of Courage, like what we gotta do? We gotta like save this family, and then like Battle for Endor, like first 3 minutes, like get rid of them. These were extra baggage. Let's cut this down. Yeah, Ewoks, good times.
Ewoks are great.
I wanted to get into your book a little bit, My Life with the Jedi, The Spirituality of Star Wars, and talk about it a little bit. And one of the things I think currently is that a lot of people are talking a lot about the politics of Star Wars. And I feel as though the spirituality or philosophy of Star Wars doesn't seem to be discussed as much. Do you feel that way? And if you do, why do you feel that is?
It's a good question. I mean, one answer could be because not enough people are asking who the Pope would be in Star Wars. So I think that question really is the we get a spit take there.
Yes.
So I think maybe if everyone had to answer that question, we would change the discourse. You know, I wonder if in some ways the politics of Star Wars, I mean, I can't speak for 1977. It always feels like it was obviously political to me. But I wonder if like there was a certain, I don't know, generation or group of folks that were like, oh no, this is just like a fun space adventure. And now it is overtly political and kind of like mirroring what we're seeing and in a disconcerting way. And so that's like what to talk about, right? And I think and I don't know if you guys talked to Chris Kemshaw, but he has that great book that's like just like the history of, right? So there's a lot of good stuff
Chris.
out there. Yeah, I mean he's a great guy, right? So I think in some ways it's more overt and more timely and more urgent, really, in some ways. The spirituality of it, I think, I always love. There's a quote in the book that Chris Taylor wrote, the Star Wars Conquered the Universe, something like that interviews, I forget who said it, but essentially Lucas, looks to Star Wars and says, I want to make this relevant to everybody. I think we look at Star Wars like, oh, like that's Buddhism, or but actually it's Hinduism, but actually like, oh, like there's the Jesus character. Like, like I think everybody kind of points to like, oh no, that one's mine. This is my thing. And really, I think it was very intentionally and well done in the sense that we want this to be vague in some ways so that everybody finds themselves here. And also nobody feels like they're being, proselytized. Which is what you want. I think it's what you want in a story. And so I wonder if in that way, the spirituality, we're like, oh, it's always been there, but it's easy enough to either disregard or to not worry about because that's not your thing. And that's totally fine. Like, you don't need that. I do wonder, I feel like the Acolyte in some ways, this isn't necessarily talking about spirituality. I think there's been a lot of, I don't want to say swipes feels like a tough word, but there's been a lot of actually really interesting storytelling around organized religion vis-a-vis the Jedi. Ahsoka leaving, certainly the Acolyte. I think the Acolyte had some really interesting and important things to say. Again, the spirituality piece, I think people either say, oh, I got to practice Jediism, or, there's nothing there. It was probably a long answer to your question, but I don't know.
No, we liked it. We want to get deep.
Yeah. And it makes sense because it is kind of, the political side is more pressing or feels more pressing now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right about the spirituality of what Star Wars presents being a mirror to multiple kind of philosophies and breaking it down into a simpler kind of ingredient, like the basic sugars of it, so that it does it can reflect anything anyone wants to see out of it.
Yeah.
Before we jump further into it, because my life with the Jedi is very much based upon the philosophies of, and I apologize if I say it incorrectly, Saint Ignatius. And can you give a little bit of background on Saint Ignatius for our listeners, so as we go deeper into the story, it feel they can understand it?
Yeah, sure. So I think per the Pope question, I'm Catholic, and is the Pope Catholic? Well, I am. So Saint Ignatius fits into the kind of the Catholic world, right? Catholicism is Christianity. If Christianity, then Catholicism is underneath there, and then Saint Ignatius is one of the saints kind of recognized by the Catholic Church. Saint Ignatius lived, late 1400s, early to mid 1500s. He and some of his early companions found the Society of Jesus, better known as the Jesuits. So folks, you guys might know Seattle University, right? It's a Jesuit school. Mm-hmm. And so the spirituality, right? The Jesuits are everywhere, doing a lot of, work in education, a lot of work in social justice, ecology, good stuff like that. But the spirituality that kind of underpins how they proceed in the world comes from St. Ignatius, right? And it's called Ignatian spirituality. It's for him. Ignatius had this profound experience in kind of this cave outside of Manresa, Spain, where he's praying, he's reflecting, he's really grappling with what it means to kind of be human, what it means, what he's being asked to do in the world. Out of that experience comes what's called the spiritual exercises. This kind of it's 4 movements of a retreat that you would do, and the whole goal of the exercises are to really discover, what am I good at? What am I being asked to do? Where might my kind of greatest desires meet the greatest needs of the world, right? And we would say that's kind of finding, the will of God in our own lives. Another key things about the Ignatian story is he was at first this knight. He was really like a man's man, gambler, womanizer, violent. He lived in the Basque Country. He has this experience where he refuses to surrender to the superior French forces at the Battle of Pamplona, And in so doing, he wasn't in charge, but he was so kind of voracious in this that everyone was like, all right, I guess we'll keep fighting, and everyone's killed, right? And so he gets this wound. And so, Ignatius, I think, rightly points to pride, right? As a real villain of the story, right? Where is there a bloated sense of pride in our lives that's governing what we do? So that's really an important piece in the Ignatian tradition. And then just two more things I'll say is Ignatian spirituality sits on this idea of God being in all things, right? Everything in the world is revelatory of something of the divine, right? The veil is thin and can be pierced easily between this world and the temporal world and the supernatural world. And Ignatius his whole project is really about discernment. How do we make good decisions that again bring us closer to who we might be in the world, right? For others. I can say more, but I'll stop there. I think it's probably more
there's
than you
also no, I think that was great. I think that was and I really appreciate that. I also think there is, or can you confirm from my understanding of it, is that there's also a belief of serving humanity, a sense of helping humanity move along and kind of doing good acts in order for the betterment of all of society. Is that?
Oh yeah, absolutely essential. It's essential. I would say that Ignatian spirituality is very much embodied, right? You don't just go and sit in church and just bring your hands together and hope for the best. You got to get out and do it. You got to get out and be about it.
Yeah.
But what are you called to do, right? What are your unique attribute skills? Like not everyone is meant to be a farmer. Some people are meant to be writers. People are meant to be bus drivers. Like there's everyone has that thing that they're really is going to connect for them. And so that's where the discernment comes into play.
Some of us are Star Wars podcasters.
Exactly. For the greater glory of God.
In talking about this, I feel as though it's a return to Qui-Gon Jinn, who had that feeling of listening to the living force, being for the people. So I find that interesting that right away you were like related to Qui-Gon Jinn, and as a Jesuit Catholic yourself, he seems to be the guiding character of that.
No, I think that's well said. And I think what you noted about the living force, right, revealing to us. I think the Ignatian tradition, God is alive and still speaking, right? Like we're still being asked to discern what is up with the world. What are we called to do? Where are we called to go? And how are we called to respond? Which was, just as a side note, a very controversial. It's controversial today, right? But it was very controversial in St. Ignatius' time during the Spanish Inquisition, which arrested him several times because he was like, "Hey, I think God's asking me to do X, Y, and Z," and they're like, "I don't know, man. Do you think so?" And how about go to prison? And so. So but here he's a saint, right? So you have that idea of back to I think your great question at the beginning about who is the best pope in the Star Wars world is that Pope Francis was a Jesuit, and so you have that very kind of Qui-Gon-esque approach to things.
Okay.
I think actually Qui-Gon Jinn was the biggest influence on Pope Francis. I think that's written.
You heard it here first.
Breaking news. Yeah, no, that's not true.
Could have been. We don't know.
I know. Never know.
I'd love to get a Star Wars Pope. Just because.
We might have one now. He likes the White Sox, so who knows? Maybe he also likes Star Wars. We'll find out.
Yeah. We should contact his brothers. They were doing interviews.
There you go. Get them on the pod.
That'd be awesome. How did you, in writing My Life with a Jedi, how did you approach the material? You have all your knowledge about St. Ignatius, and then you have all your knowledge about Star Wars. You're seeing the connections. How did you go about combining these, what I'll refer to as two philosophies, the Jedi philosophy and the St. Ignatius philosophies? How did you go about doing the research and then combining them together? And was there an aha moment where you were like, oh my God, I see the connective tissue. Let me put this down.
Yeah. Well, I think in some ways I'm like, well, I'm only good at two things and those are it. So I guess I'll put them both in the book. So there's a little bit of that for sure.
That's funny.
And also, there's a couple ways to answer this question. I think one is, again, very much in the Ignatian tradition. It says, God is in all things, right? And God is speaking to you in the things that you love. And so I think there's at least again for me in my own kind of spiritual journey, I would say, oh, okay, that's a really consoling and affirming thing. That if this story that I really think fascinates me and really kind of consumes me in a good way, there's something holy and sacred there. And maybe I can pull it out, maybe I can mine it, right? So I think there's that instinct. I think there was also, again, I found that Chris Taylor quote I said earlier, that idea of the force is so vague as to be appealing to all. I like that as an invitation. Well, hey, let's all, like I have on my shelf the Star Wars and Buddhism, the Star Wars and Hinduism. I have those books here too. So, well, what if I offer my thoughts? What if, let's think of this as a dialogue instead of now do it my way. Like that was never it. I think the other thing was Ignatian spirituality just made sense for two kind of key reasons. The force, right? What does Yoda say? The force is in all things, right? Like the rock and the X-wing. So
it surrounds us. It binds us.
Exactly. So it was not a hard jump. And then the other idea of discernment, right? Saint Ignatius, he was a soldier. A lot of his spiritual writing is very warlike in its imagery. So it's not hard to, and he's making decisions. He literally says we're discerning between two spirits, a good spirit and a false spirit. Well, that's the dark side and the light side, right? So a lot of this stuff was already there and easily mined. As I was going through, I'm not interested in stories that are like, oh, and there's the Jesus character, like, surprise, he was there all along. That doesn't interest me. Maybe it's good for other people, but I'm interested in how can we pray with this material? How can this material be something that we reflect with and meditate on, and then brings us, it's not an academic exercise. It's a spiritual one. And so my hope, right, is people read this and then whatever tradition they're coming from, they say, oh, interesting. Like this can help me kind of reflect on my own life. Because that's what Ignatian spirituality is supposed to do. I think that's what good storytelling does. Yeah. And then, I just remember, I pitched the book. I think I had like 8-9 months to write it. I'm like, all right. I remember being on vacation with my wife in Iceland and sitting down to have like, some sort of fish thing and being like, oh, I got an idea. And like literally like texting myself, like emailing myself, like 16 different, like, look at this quote. What about this character? So just like, as they came to me, it's always amazing. Like I've done three books are out in the world now. And the proposal to the final draft of the contents is like insanely different because you got to live into it. You got to kind of journey with it.
Yeah.
I think we joke around that like, I only know St. Ignatius and I only know Star Wars so I can bind them. And of course I made a book. But it is like, it's one thing to have an idea. It's another to start putting the idea down. And it's a whole new thing to write 200 pages of a continuous thought out concept. And so I do agree that it is funny that these are the two things but it's also I want to recognize that it's very difficult to write a book.
I appreciate that.
Even though we make light of it.
Well, I mean, so I am a spirituality writer, right? Like I write, I'll have 4 books on spirituality, and spirituality is meant to be useful, right? It's not meant to be like, let me wax poetic in my basement. It's meant to be, I hope I give this to you, and there might be 12 chapters and maybe 6 pages resonate, and that's great, but I have to be thinking about what is helpful to the reader as they grapple with the meaning of life, right? Like no small thing. And so I think in part that's also what I'm thinking about. Like here are two stories and here are 2 things, and I'm not just trying to make academic connections. I really want to offer these things to readers in a way that they say, huh, interesting. Like that kind of shakes something loose in my own life or in my own reflections, whether or not they're, Catholic, Christian, whatever, that doesn't matter to me. It's about, is this helping you in some way as you're muddling through with the rest of us?
Yeah. You have a book titled Canonnball Moments, and you bring that up as a concept in the book with My Life with the Jedi. Just quickly, can you explain that phrase, a cannonball moment? Yeah.
So it's a somewhat flippant phrase, right, for a war injury. But it literally refers to that moment when Ignatius refuses to surrender to the French, and he gets a cannonball to the leg, right? Both of his legs are broken. And so it's a hinge. So we talk about it as a hinge moment, right? Spiritually speaking, what are those things that knock us off our feet, quite literally, and give us the opportunity to assess where am I going and why? And what's really, really, really important about Canonnball Moments in the Ignatian tradition is it's not the cannonball strike that is a good. That's not a good thing, right? The trauma, the tragedy, the woundedness, that we're not saying like, oh yeah, hooray, like let's just beat people up and then they'll figure it out. That's not it. In the Ignatian story, it's the 11 months he spends convalescing in his home, and he's forced to rethink his life. And I had a book come out last month on peace, right? On Ignatian spirituality and peace. Again, I only have the one trick. And I've been thinking a lot about peace spirituality, which is funny, right? Because Ignatius is so war, focused. Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
But what we have in those moments, those cannonball moments, is the opportunity to juxtapose two different versions of reality, right? An old status quo, a broken status quo, most likely, and then something new. We can allow our imagination to go wild. I mean, in My Life with the Jedi, it was that image of the sand, right? Are we stuck in this kind of constant discomfort, but we don't want to leave Tatooine or Jakku? Right. Or unable to imagine something greater, or do we do it? Like, something terrible happens to Luke, right? And that's what jars him into something new. He didn't have to say yes. The cannonball moment is not a necessary yes. It is most likely a really jarring moment that allows you to hold in your mind two juxtaposed realities and then say, well, where do I want to go? Again, we're talking about making decisions. What comes next?
I think that's so interesting because as soon as I read it, my first thought was canon. Like Spider-Man losing Gwen Stacy to the Green Goblin. That's canon. That's it. And it's also a hinge moment. And my instinct was maybe they're connected somehow, but I think it really is just a little bit of coincidence of language. And I found that kind of so fascinating that we talk so much about canon and then a hinge moment is a cannonball moment. I don't think there's a question there. It was just two things I put together and thought were fascinating.
Yeah, but I mean that's good stuff though, right? Like what arises in you as you're moving through this kind of reflection material.
I'd love to pit it to the Jedi Council if we can.
Yes.
If that's cool. Because in the book, you talk a lot about how, the Jedi Council lost their way because they were kind of too attached to their own rules. I'm curious kind of if you can extrapolate on the life lessons that we can learn from this example and what you think that the Jedi could have done differently.
Yeah. Well, again, I think in the living force, right, you have that idea of how can we be more present to real people that are really experiencing life? Like, how do we sink into because rules are important, right? Like you have to order society in a way that makes sense. And, but you also have to allow it to grow and expand as people discover new things, right? Again, that's why Ignatian spirituality is so helpful because it allows us to observe reality as it evolves. I just love, again, I think in that chapter you're referring to, or at least one in the book that I kind of talk about some of these things, that dance between Ahsoka and Yoda. And Ahsoka, leaving the Jedi, but then kind of coming, doesn't really come back, right? But she's always kind of not flirting, but like kind of courting the Jedi in some way, kind of colliding with them. And that's not for nothing, right? It's because I think she has a great affinity for them and knows the good that they can do, and yet also has made a choice that's like, but something's not quite there for me. On the other hand, you have Yoda, who, I mean, the more we learn about his story, right, the more we're like, man, this guy knew it was all fallen down for like 100 years. And he couldn't stop it. And yet he stays within the structure. Why? Ultimately to end up as a hermit recluse, right? And yet there's something really compelling there. And so that scene in Rebels where he kind of like gives her a nod and she kind of gives him a nod, and that kind of the wanderer and the institution kind of recognizing the necessity of both, I think is really powerful. So I mean, I don't think I answered your question though. Like, what can they learn? I think listening to people, right? I don't know. I don't think it's rocket science. I think it's like, are we listening to real people living their real lives, and are we listening to all of them, like across the board, so that we can integrate lived experience into how our institutions function.
And now we're back at Qui-Gon and living force and why he should be the Pope.
There you go. Full circle. It's obviously the right answer. I mean, we keep coming back to it.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this next question is not something we typically ask, but I feel like even the avoidance of a spiritual quest is in itself a type of spiritual quest. There's a divisiveness that surrounds The Last Jedi, and the biggest reason seems to be the portrayal of Luke Skywalker not being the Luke that everyone thought he would be. What are your thoughts on The Last Jedi's representation of Luke?
I loved it. That was the part of Last Jedi I loved the most. Is that the right answer?
There's no wrong answer.
This is from a certain point of view.
This is your point of view. So
honestly, I love it because of what you just described, right? And I don't know. I think about life. Think about life. Like as you live, like things disappoint you. We're just discussing how institutions and people let us down, and like after a while, it's hard. Right? You get tired, and the great like mythos you've built around yourself or around the things that you love, it can't hold. And so if we put these things on a pedestal and they disappoint us, we're going to be crushed when they fall down. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch Picard. I guess Star Trek fans. I love that representation of an old and tired Jean-Luc Picard, right? Like, I think that's very true. That feels right to me. And so I think we're used to stories ending or not ending in a sense where it's like, oh, but the character's still going, like we still got it. Yeah. And here what we had was a story ended and then time passed, like the logical march of life. And then, he made decisions. Maybe some were good, some were bad, but I don't think the rationale was terrible. And I think also, I was just thinking this the other day, and I feel like I had a good thought, but it's probably escaped me now. But I think that idea of, I don't know, I think though, like, it's not for nothing, Rey is an important figure there, right? Like, talk about the Jedi being broken but still important, right? Like she's following a myth, like a legend. Like she didn't have the Ahsoka experience, and yet for some reason they're important to her. And so I don't think it's a bad thing that a young person reinvigorates in an older person a love of the thing they loved, right? I don't think that's a bad story trait. I don't think that is illogical or doesn't feel true to life. Like, I think we, we run our own risk of what's sort of like atrophy, I guess, if we don't allow that newness to mold and shape us, right? Like, I don't know. I think about my kids. Like, I can be a grumpy old man sometimes, and so thank God they shake me, to be a little more joyful, right? And isn't that kind of what we saw at Luke and Rey?
Yeah, I like that.
I like that a lot, and that idea. It also reflects what Yoda says in The Last Jedi, which is, we are what they grow beyond. That is the burden of all masters.
Yes.
That sounds awesome, right? That sounds awesome. Yes. But you had to see Luke like that.
Yes.
If Luke was I mean, I don't know, like, of course I would love to see, like, Mark Hamill, like, with the lightsaber, going crazy on, I don't know, like the Sith. But I also I just resonate. Maybe I'm older than I look. I resonate with that weariness of the world that has disappointed us, and the things that we thought were great are not. And how do we carry that? Like, what, like in our own lives? Like, I don't know, like for you guys or for listeners, like what does that actually look like in your life when something disappoints you in such a profound way, and you feel tied into that disappointment? How do you respond? Do you say, well, hey, let me grab the lightsaber and back at him? Or do you say, like, I gotta maybe rethink some things?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe Luke was going through what the council was going through, and he was trying to take a different approach than what they did.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's a really helpful point too. Don't make the same. Don't repeat the mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also really just negates. I mean, his move at the end of The Last Jedi, facing Kylo. I mean, that takes a significant amount of strength. Like, it hadn't yet been seen before. Like, it proved that he was still the master.
Yeah.
But with that ultimate sacrifice, I don't know. I agree with you. I felt like his story was very well-rounded in Last Jedi, frankly. I know that's a hot take.
No, I mean, I obviously I agree. I love the idea to, again, he's a piece in the larger puzzle, right? Like, he gives, what does the sacrifice do? It gives others a chance to keep going. Like, and I think that's really cool. I mean, that's what Obi-Wan's sacrifice was. I think in some ways we look at this. I mean, and this might be honestly, like, to your point about, like, kind of spirituality. Are we getting the spiritual parts in our culture? And I think this is a spiritual insight, right? That, like, my little effort that actually costs me everything gives others a chance not to succeed, but just to try, to keep going.
Yes.
And I think
another day,
and that's not like a sexy, cool thing to be like to do. I think people want to be the hero who, like, I conquered them all, and that's not what we all get to do.
That's the grown-up thing to do.
Yeah,
and which which then leads us to Andor, because Andor
I was just thinking that, yes.
about all the people who got the plans into Princess Leia's hands in order for Luke to blow up the Death Star.
I saw a meme the other day that was like, I think it was them on Scarif and then the awards ceremony with the medals. And they were like, this is 3 weeks apart. Like, and I was like, oh my God, it is. They were the unsung heroes until that story got told. Yeah.
And speaking on Andor, I think it's interesting that there is no force in Andor. There's very little force in Andor. Do you think Andor lacked spirituality because it didn't have the force, or was there another spirituality within Andor?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't think spirituality is necessarily that like the power to like do stuff, right? I think Chirrut Îmwe is a probably in some ways a better representative of kind of the real spiritual path that any of us might try to be on than Mace Windu, who's got like awesome, but like I really like that like kind of little wink at that. What was it, the healer in season 2? That was really interesting, and again, kind of speaks to that mysterious strangeness we were talking about. I think that's cool. I think in some ways it made sense to have, I don't know, like it was like the brutality of politics and the brutality of war, and that's hard. And so I think like any spirituality you're bringing to that is going to be quiet and at a whisper.
Yeah.
But I also think like from a story perspective, I think what we were just talking about, like this, the little things offered by a lot of people for the greater good is a wonderful spiritual truth. And if you can keep that, if you got to keep that greater good in your mind at all times to be able to do it. Otherwise, talking about pride, it comes back to like, well, what am I going to get out of this? Like, this is just for me. And then that becomes a real poison pill to any sort of great, enterprise like the rebellion.
I think that's a great answer, and it definitely rings true. One other random question I have is, we've talked about Star Wars strangeness. What is we did talk about Bendu, but what are some of your favorites, whether they just be kind of throwaway things or some connective tissue? What is some of your favorite Star Wars strangeness?
That's a great question. I feel like there's like a meme I've seen that like is basically where I draw this from. But I loved the Bendu. I just love. I mean, like, what's going on? This like you got this like, well, it's a lion turtle, right, from Avatar: Last Airbender. Like that's basically. Do you guys watch that show?
Oh no.
Oh guys, oh my gosh! All right. Well, anyway,
I know.
The Bendu is basically a lion turtle on whatever that planet was. So I like that. I really like Yoda's kind of trippy journey in was it the 6th season of
Yeah.
I think it was the penultimate season of Clone Wars.
It was.
And
it was
like
episodes 11, 12, and 13 of the 6th season.
You just watched those, yeah.
I just watched them.
It's like the Force, like the muses almost, right? Like they're like, you got to do this, and he's like, who are you? I thought that was cool. I think once you kind of like up the Force with Yoda, it like gets very strange anyway. I also liked the Mortis stuff. I'm interested in the Mortis stuff.
Oh
obviously.
yes,
and I like how the Mortis stuff has gone from like direct experience to like the iconography and like the geological studies in Rebels, and now like who knows what's going to happen in Ahsoka. I like that. I think that's very strange. I like what's the owl? All I can think is like Mordecai. I don't think that's right though.
No, it's Kim.
It's Kim. Yes.
The owl's name is Kim, the one that follows Ahsoka.
Oh no! That's a different one. I'm sorry. We're thinking of the one
from Skeleton Crew. Sorry.
Yeah.
That owl was cool. I don't know if that was
I
was
don't
like spiritual strangeness, but
I don't
know. But Skeleton Crew though, like that was like I love the idea of like a hidden planet. I love like when you have obviously again, I'm not hard to impress as obviously, but the was like I love it all. I don't know. There was some stuff in the Acolyte. I don't know if the Acolyte entirely landed the plane for me, but I did like the collision of your like almost like imperial religion with the kind of more like local customs and how that collided. Not well for anybody, obviously, but that asked a lot of interesting things, and how the Sith works in the background. I guess this is not strange anymore. This is just kind of basic Star Wars, but I thought there's some really interesting visuals and just in the shadows. I thought that was cool. Sorry, I'm just talking now at this point. I'm not even answering your question. I'm just waxing.
No, it's all it's all reflective.
No.
Oh no! This is a 15-minute interview.
Good luck. That sounds like a terrible editing process.
No, actually, what I do is I look for all the parts where we fumble around, and I just put those together. And that's there's a secret show called What Do I Not Know? And it's just people bumbling along trying to find an answer. Sorry.
It's mostly me, so don't worry.
How do I get that show?
No.
All right.
No, you're doing a fantastic job.
No, this is very exciting.
And it's very interesting, and we love weird deepness.
We do.
I like weird deepness would also be a good name. I think that's a good
weird deepness.
Weird deepness.
A t-shirt for me, the weird deepness. It's like a villain, like a super villain.
Yeah.
It really does.
Kind of like the void.
Yeah, kind of like draws like boom, and so this black hole opens beneath you and you fall in, and that's the weird deepness.
Yeah.
Keep this part. Don't delete this.
A self-shame spiral inside the weird deepness.
Yeah.
Much like Rey in the cave.
Yes, much like Rey in the cave. What would be your cave experience?
God.
Oh,
I know that's like, but I
that
feel
was
like
out of left field.
Isn't I right about this in the book? Isn't this in the book?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I have the answer. I think you got to buy it. No, yeah, no. I mean, that's a deep and personal question. I think, but I can wrestle with. I think in the book I shared with in the cave in Manresa, right, Ignatius, and I think the cave is actually a really good example because why I find that I could even write this book is because again we're praying with this stuff. We're putting ourselves in the scenes. We're not just like I wonder, let me make an academic thing, which is not a bad thing. I don't mean to be flippant, but I was really struck again in this cave. We make this pilgrimage, right? So we go to the key sites in the story of St. Ignatius. The cave is, of course, one of them, and now it's a small chapel. And we're there for mass, and this Jesuit is saying mass, and he says, when Ignatius was there, he contemplated suicide because he was so overwhelmed with, am I enough to do the stuff that I think I need to do, that God's asking me, right? And of course, what Ignatius says is that that wasn't of a good spirit, right? That, what are the good spirits? And of course, the good spirit always says, well, he delights in you. The good spirit always delights in you. The false spirit is the one that says you're not enough, right? And so what Father Burke, who was the Jesuit who was there, he says, in this cave, Ignatius wrote the spiritual exercises, the foundational text of the whole Ignatian tradition. Kevin says, but the most important thing Ignatius did in this cave for God and God's people is combing his hair and cutting his fingernails, right? Because it means that because I'm beloved, I'm worthy. I don't need to dwell in shame, and that's not what any God worth 2 cents is asking of me. He's asking me to get out and be about the work, as you said earlier, Dave. Right? It's about being with people and serving the greater good. And so for me, this is a really kind of the scenic route to the answer. Is I think any sort of cave experience for me, I think about that. What are the things that I feel ashamed of? What are the things that are getting in the way of my sense of delight? Like I'm worthwhile. I'm doing good things. What are those things? And that's what needs to be pushed away into the wall or cut down with the lightsaber, right? Because those are not of a good spirit. Those are always of a false, lying spirit that says you're not enough, you're not worthy. So it's not a specific answer. I think that's the framing I bring to a lot of my daily questions, and then say, okay, well, am I, what's going on here, and is it good or is it unhelpful?
It totally makes sense, and it also kind of resonates with what Luke went through, facing those bad spirits of not being worthy enough to face Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Or even, I will inevitably fall to the same evil, right?
Yes.
I think that also, I'm not worthy to face him. I'm not enough to do it. And why bother anyway? Because I'm only going to fail, right? That's like a two-step dance, which is both bad, both not helpful spiritually.
But and I apologize for saying this, but you look at The Last Jedi, in a way, he did fail.
Yeah.
And that's some of the divisiveness of it. And is it okay for a hero to fail and try to figure it out? Mm-hmm. Or does a hero always have to be a hero, I guess? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I think this is the interesting thing about a story that continues as opposed to a story. Our characters continue as opposed to we put a tidy bow at the end. And I think for Luke, right, whose story basically ends midway through the sequel trilogy. I mean, like, I don't know, he inspires Rey in some meaningful way, right? He does give would definitely give the Resistance another shot. And you can cut this if this isn't helpful. This is off the IP, but I was interviewing the director of How to Train Your Dragon, and we're talking about the Hiccup. Have you guys have seen this movie?
I saw the original. Hiccup was the dragon.
Well, the original. No, Hiccup was the boy, was the kid. So I mean, it's the same story, right? Same story. He used a term I had never heard, and he described Hiccup as a teaching hero. And I was like, what does that mean? And he said a teaching hero is somebody who points to, again, the brokenness in the moment. In that story, right? Dragons aren't the villain. And is able to push back against kind of the cultural assumptions of the community and point to a potential future that is going to be helpful. And that's his arc, right? Hiccup's not a warrior. He isn't. I mean, I guess he does kind of bring down that dragon at the end, but it's that his heroic journey is built on this sense of something's not right here. I think we could do better. I think we're miscalling the moment, and I can imagine and bring us into the next iteration. And so I think that kind of hero again is not like the sexy, cool, swashbuckling hero. That hero is like very clumsy and silly.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting. It's just a different model.
We need more heroes like that, though.
I think most of the spiritual people you would look to, right, in any of across the board, any of the traditions, that's what they do, right? They point to this. Our status quo is broken. I think we can do better, and let me help you imagine and envision what comes. And then other people do the work. Other people live into it. But it's that. I mean, they're at the hinge. That's the hinge moment, right?
It's true. No, I think that's great, and I think that's going to stay. What are the top
now it's 12 minutes, this whole thing, right? 17
yeah, exactly.
Keep the clock running.
What are the top 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
Hope. I think hope is necessary. I think a little bit of that. I don't know. This is a good question. I don't want to rush through it. I think there is an element of the strangeness, which, and I would include in that strangeness the Force, all the way down to like the world feels so lived in, right? The Millennium Falcon is right. So I think there's that element of it. So maybe like a strange reality, what I say. So hope, strange reality, and then I think that, especially in the kind of Disney era times, I think the importance of characters, of all the characters are important. Anyway, I had an interesting experience. I don't know, maybe it's not interesting, but I was watching Captain America: Brave New World. Is that the new one?
Yes.
And I haven't finished it yet. Don't tell me it ends. But
Captain America
strong opinions about that movie. Yeah.
Well, positive or negative or different?
Indifferent. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I was so struck, and maybe I don't watch enough movies. I was so struck by the opening scene, or close to the opening scene, when Captain America is just like killing everybody. Boom, 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 boom. Like not even a second thought. Like, oh, shot, you're dead. Yeah. Yes. And I just had this book on peace. Maybe that's why in my mind. But I think also because I'm reading Lost Stars in some ways, and I'm like, well, these are all other characters. These are all other characters, but we're treating them like cannon fodder, which they are in that thing. But I think Star Wars has done a good enough job at this point that I do feel like and especially watching Andor, right? Like even like the Imperial troopers that had to go out, that were literally sent as like the bait in the Gorman massacre, right? Like you felt for those guys. You're like, oh, these are real characters. So I think that 3-dimensionality of all of the characters, you're like, oh man, there's a story behind each of them. So I think, all right, so hope, strange lived in reality, and 3-dimensionality of everything. All the characters.
Character tapestry.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So in the book, you write, hope demands action. Hope is built upon practice, and it breeds a disposition. And you said that hope is one of the top elements in Star Wars for you. How does Star Wars provide you with hope? Or in what ways does Star Wars provide you with hope?
I'm thinking about this a lot, right? In some ways, right, as we see too many elements of Star Wars play out in the real world, it's deeply troubling, deeply disconcerting, right? And yet, the arc of story to where it goes, to that there is something to hold on to, that there is, that as much as like we say like, oh, like this is, XYZ playbook, you also can say, well, actually, but also look what also happens. And I think that gives me some hope that, the arc of storytelling, like these stories are resonant because they're reflective of our lives. Like across the board, like any story, I believe any story that resonates with you is reflective of reality in a really important kind of deep way, even if we don't see laser swords and pew 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 in the skies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's that being in the human DNA, that overthrowing injustice and moving towards the good together. Like we know that, and even in moments that are hard and dark and scary, we know it. And I think that's kind of where hope comes from, even if it feels kind of dim and maybe like kind of nebulous.
Nice.
Wow, I love that.
So we've talked about your Star Wars journey, about your dad introducing it to you when you were a kid, the excitement of discovering the Ewoks only to watch it.
I didn't say I wasn't excited while watching it. I mean, it was awesome. I think I was like maybe like 13. No,
I'm just kidding.
There's the idea, the force, the spirituality of Star Wars. Qui-Gon being a great pope.
Great pope. But what name would he take? That's the real question.
Oh, I don't know, because I don't know enough about the tradition of Pope. I do know that
you don't know enough Pope names. All right, yeah. I don't know. I'll think about that one. I'll come on next.
Pope Qui.
Yeah,
maybe he starts a new line.
Yeah, that's like
have me back. I'll have a Pope name by then.
Perfect.
Not for myself, for Qui-Gon Jinn.
Let's all get Pope names.
I mean,
that should be an app.
That should be a meme. Your Pope name. It's like the first letter
out there. Yeah,
it's got to be. It's
you just do what you would do for like exactly the pet and the street you grew up on.
Yeah. Pope Woodbine Sebastian.
There you go.
Anyway, but we've discussed all of this. Can you say, or can you answer, what does Star Wars mean to you?
Do I have to answer it succinctly, or can I tell you? Can I give a story instead?
You can give a
however you want.
Yeah.
So I have been reflecting lately about the intergenerationality of Star Wars, and I'm a big fan. I used to write for Dork Side of the Force, which is great. Everyone should check it out. And I remember there were a lot of really compelling and thoughtful pieces about, like, hey, stop forcing people to kind of enter the story where you want. Let them enter wherever they want, and let them enjoy the story, right? And so I think I've been thinking about that with my own. I have two kids. In my mind, I was like, we're going to watch the movies this way, and this is the way it's going to be, and it's not worked out that way at all. So instead, I'm like, well, what? How can I give them again, use it to just kind of goad their imagination, right? Like I want these stories for help me and my kind of imagine things. Like I want that for them. So we do a lot of Legos. They watch a lot of Clone Wars. We watched a couple of the films. We took them to see Phantom Menace in theaters. But I'm thinking most of we've been to Disney World twice with them. And so Star Wars World. And and the first time I had this really profound experience with my dad. I think I read about in the book. How we stood in line for the Millennium Falcon, and it was just like, I was like, oh, so cool with the guy who can introduce it to me. Yeah. Well, the second time we went back, and the line was shorter. We had the whatchamacallit pass or whatever, and so I brought both my girls, for like 4.5 and 7 at the time.
Fun.
And so we're going through the line. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be good. Like I feel like I'm really excited about this, but I'm afraid that maybe my youngest is too young. And as we're getting closer, I'm like, well, this is we're in deep trouble. But fortunately, we were the only ones in the ride. It was like 4 spots or 6 spots. We were only 4 of us.
Yeah, because you have like the gunners and the engineers and the pilots. Yeah.
Exactly. So they I don't know, like the person smiled upon us and was like, all right, just the 4 of you. And so we go in, and so my daughters are going to be the pilots, and my dad and I are the gunners. And so you don't sit next. You can't hold anyone's hands, which is a crucial error. Anyway, so we begin, and immediately tears, just like wailing, and I was like, oh boy, this is not good. I can't even. I'm like, you're okay, like,
because you're locked in. You can't unbuckle.
We're 100%. No, it'd be dangerous to unbuckle. And I was like, I don't know how we get out of this. And it's pretty intense. It was like a pretty intense ride, as you might know. But my oldest is like locked into she's like, we gotta get this ship out of here. Like we gotta Hondo Naka's counting on us. And she keeps encouraging her sister, like, come on, you gotta hit the button. It's lighting up. And so like my youngest is like crying, but she's focused, hitting the button, keeping it afloat. And I don't know if this is a story of like terrible parenting. It might be, but
not even a little bit.
But there was like this. And we walked out, and she's like, I didn't like that. Like, yeah, no kidding. But there was this just this moment again of this shared experience of story and shared. I'm going to bring it back now. Here it comes. The shared experience of story and this commitment to the immersion of it, right? Like we're in it, we're enjoying it, even if we're not. We got to push the button. We got to keep going. And that was, I don't know. I just think that was awesome. And it's a happy memory for me, probably not for her. But then you walk out and you see Kylo Ren on loose, you see Chewbacca. So the very, very long answer to your question is, I think it's that it's the opportunity to share story with others in a whole abundance of ways. And honestly, that's what religion and spirituality is too. We're just sharing stories and things that move us, and give some meaning and shape to our lives. So there it is.
I love that.
That was a scenic route to a point.
No, I love it.
It was a great scenic route, and I'll make it about me just for a second, but I will give you some relief that it probably will not be a terrible memory for a lifetime for her.
Yes.
Because when I was maybe 10, 11, my dad took me on the Disney World haunted house ride, and we got stuck in the middle of it where heads were popping out of graves, and the announcement on the thing was, please stay in your doom buggy. And I felt like we were in there for like a year. I was freaking out.
Because it's the worst ride to get stuck on.
And I was freaking out. But all this time later, it's still a favorite. It's the memory I have of Disneyland with my dad.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean,
she's going to laugh about that.
Yeah. So, Eric, where can people find you? Where can they find your books? Give us the deets, as people want to say today. I hate myself sometimes.
Will that get cut out? The deets?
I don't know.
I like the mystery. Yeah, so you can find my books anywhere books are sold. My Life of the Jedi, Spirituality of Star Wars, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore. I have another one, Canonnball Moments, as you alluded to, and I have a third that just came out called Finding Peace Here and Now, How Ignatian Spirituality Leads Us to Healing and Wholeness. So if you really were inspired by my St. Ignatius stories, and buckle up.
And are you on social? I'm pretty sure you're on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's at eClaytopia. I have a Substack you can subscribe to. EricClaytonWrites.com is my website where you can then find my Substack. So I have my writing is in a variety of different places. So if you can contact me through those places, and happy to get in touch.
Wonderful.
I will put all those websites and links in the show notes so people can just drop down into them and click right through. Eric, it was so wonderful talking to you. I really, so fun. After a spring of talking about the politics of Star Wars, it was truly a joy to talk about the spirituality of Star Wars. Really appreciate you coming on. May the Force be with you.
Thank you, and with your spirit.
Aww.
This is awesome, guys. I really appreciate it. It's so fun.